Hi everyone! In this video I will show you how to monitor a Ubuntu Linux machine from Nagios. In the previous video I explained how to install Nagios in Ubuntu 22.04 server. And I explained too how to do a basic configuration to monitor if a machine is up and running on the network. So if the host is connected to the network and respond to the ping, it will appear green in the Nagios console. But if it is not responding to the ping, it will appear red. But now we want to monitor more stuff on our machine. For example, the CPU usage, the memory usage, the disk space usage. I will show you a few examples on this video to do that. So now we see the Nagios web interface and we see all machines that I set up to monitor. On my first Nagios video, I only have one machine. It's called Ubuntu machine. The other one, the local host, is my Nagios server. Ubuntu machine is a Ubuntu server freshly installed. The video will begin with configuring an agent on the machine I wish to monitor, and after I will show you how to set up the Nagios server to monitor this host. So like I said, an agent must be installed on the host in order to monitor its services. Nagios provide an agent for it. It's called the nrpe agent. We will install it on this host. It will be done with this command. And enter your user password. And confirm it's okay by pressing the Y key. And pressing enter. The installation has been completed. Just for information, all plugin files are located in this directory. I will list the content of this directory just to show you. Now the file we need to modify is the /etc/nagios/nrpe.cfg config file. So open this file with your favorite file editor. And the file should look like this. We won't explain each line. The default configuration works fine, but you can read all comments line if you want to adapt some things to your requirement. But now one line we must change is the allow host line. This line specifies hosts allowed to communicate with this nrpe agent. In our case, it is the Nagios server IP address we must enter. In my case, it is 10.0.0.33. After that, we go down several lines to reach a section with many commands. Okay, I found it. This is the default config. For the check user, it is to monitor the number of users connected on the host. More in detail on this line, there is the name of the command. In this case, it's check user, and there is also the path, the full path of the plugin file. The -w parameter is the meter which must be ranged to have a warning status. And the -c is the same thing, but it's the meter for the critical state. When a service is in the critical state, it will be red on the Nagios console, while it will be yellow in the console if it's in a warning state. It is also possible to configure an email alert when a service is in critical state or warning state. This thing will be covered on a future video. The second command and the default configuration is the check load line. It is to monitor the host load. Like the previous command, we see the plugin name and the path, but we have a few more parameters for this plugin. To have more information, you can launch most of this command in a command prompt with the -h parameter to give you more information under option. We will go through the other config line a little faster. So this line is to monitor the HDA1 disk space. The next one is to check the zombie process number. It is very convenient to prevent you from a zombie attack. I'm kidding. I invite you to make a Google search if you want to know what is a zombie process in Linux. We also have another command, which is the total process number on the machine. On this example, if there are more than 200 processes currently running on the Linux machine, this service will be in critical state. So it will be read in the nagios console. Okay, you can adjust all these parameters. That's all for the default configuration. But now I will add some additional commands that I think they are very useful in our IT environment. I will copy this command here, and of course I will put them too in the video description. So you can take them and paste it on your server. First of all, I made a command check disk root, which is very similar to check the HDA disk. But instead it's checking the root disk space. In other words, it's the /drive or the system space. This is the partition where your Linux is installed. Here is the plugin path, and this config, if it has less than 20% disk space free, it will be in a warning state. And if the free disk space is below 10%, the service will be in a critical state. Again, if you use this command with its -h option, as we did previously with another command, it is possible to see other options available for this command. For example, you can monitor the real disk space rather than the disk space percentage. The -p/ option is precisely to say that it is the / partition we want to monitor. If you have a separate partition for your /home, I will show you how you can configure it to monitor the /home. You just have to copy the line and change the command line and put the option you want. So on this example, I will change the -p option to /home to monitor the /home. Later in this tutorial, when I will configure the check root service in the nagios server, you will have to add a check disk home service too. For information, you can monitor all other disk mounts from your Linux system. The other command I put here is check swap to check the swap usage on your Linux machine. When there is less than 50% of free swap, it will give you a warning, and if there is less than 20%, it will be a critical state. We have another command. It is the check uptime. It can be used to see your machine uptime, and you can configure an alert too if, for example, a host has been restarted in the past hour. The check CPU is for the CPU usage. On this example, if the CPU usage is above 85%, it will be in warning. And it will be in critical if it's above 95%. The check memory is the same things, but for the memory usage. Oops, I made a little mistake here. It needs a space between the -C and the 90%. Another thing I want to talk about before going to the next step is the command arguments. It is possible to enable this option. To explain what it is, without using command argument, if you want to modify the parameter for warning or critical state, you have to change it host by host under agent config file. What I mean is, if you monitor 15 Linux machine and one day you say 85% is too high for warning setting and you would like it to be 75%, you have to do that change host by host, step by step. There's another way to configure it. If you look at the following section, it explains a method to send a warning or critical percentage or other setting from the nagios server. This mod must be enabled on all agents if you want to use it. But I'm not using this method because there is a potential security risk. For example, if a hacker successfully emit the nagios server with a man-in-middle attack, he has a chance to take more information by pushing command arguments. That explains too why you need to enable the don't blame NRPE option to activate this parameter. This option name is very explicit, so don't blame NRPE if you active it. The way I configure my nagios check on these tutorials, the nagios agent will only return critical, warning, or OK on its status, and sometimes some metric. Like example, if you monitor the CPU usage, you will receive the current percentage of the CPU usage. I will probably do a video later to show you how to enable command arguments. I will show you how to install nrpe-server from source and how to compile it with the necessary option to use that mod. In the business case, the other way I use to change my nagios agent setting is to use a solution like Puppet or Chief. From my Puppet server, I describe how I want my machine to be, and then the Puppet server makes this change on to all my hosts. This subject too is something I want to cover in a future video. Okay, let's come back to our topic. Here is how the nrpe agent is configured. Save and exit the text editor. After this file modification, we must restart the nrpe service to apply the change. Here is the command to do that. Sudo systemctl restart nagios-nrpe-server. Don't forget that machine is not the nagios server, but the nrpe server. It's not the same things. The nagios server is the one with the nagios console. It is the monitoring server, while the nrpe server is a nagios agent. The nagios server sends a request to the agent, and the agent executes a command on the host and returns the result to the nagios server. It is now time to configure the nagios server. In order to send an RPE request to our host, we have to install a plugin on it. Here is the command to do that. Enter your user password, Before modify our nagios config file, we will test to be sure our NRPE plugin is able to join the nagios agent. Here is the full path of this plugin. That command must be executed with its -h option. It must be a uppercase H, followed by the IP address you want to test. This command will communicate with the nagios agent on the other machine, and if our nagios server is authorized, then it will answer with the nrpe version. Just like this. If it didn't work, be sure you started the nrpe service on the other machine and verify your firewall rules if you have one installed on your host. We will change some nagios config file to configure our services monitor. So the first config file we have to modify is this one. We will define a new command on this file, and this one will be used in this tutorial soon. There are several config already done on this file. We're going down to the section where the following command line is. Following check commands are used to monitor services. We will add our command here. On its setting, we have the command name and the command line. The first part of this line is the command path. $user1 is a variable in nagios containing the plugins folder path. This is defined somewhere by default. As we already see previously, -h is to specify the host IP address we want to communicate. This variable will return the host IP address. The -c is to specify the command name you want to execute in the nagios agent. That will be specified later on services configuration and will be pushed by an argument. Each services configuration will contain this argument. That's it for this config file. We save and close it. In the first nagios tutorial, we create an empty file to configure our services. Now it's time to put some configuration on it. I'm going to paste this config here. It will be on the video description too. I'm going to spend a little time to explain the first service, and it's going to be the same principle for the other one, so I will pass them faster. Each service starts with a defined services line. Then in the parameters, we have a use line to specify which settings template we want to use. In this basic config, we will use the default generic service template. The host group name line is the host group we want to monitor. Each member of this host group will be monitored by this service. In my previous nagios video, I made a host group called Ubuntu-host. I will put all my Ubuntu machine on this host group. The service description line represents the service name displayed in the nagios console. So the first service I have in my config file is to monitor the root partition disk space. The check command is the command that will be executed on the nagios server for the check. In our case, it is the check_nrpe_linux command created a few minutes ago in the commands.cfg file. And this check_nrpe-linux plugin will send instruction to the nagios agent to execute the command we want. In nagios, an argument are indicated after an exclamation mark. In this case, the command name we want to execute in the agent is pushed by this argument. That command name should represent a command defined in the nrpe config file modified earlier on this video on the host we want to monitor. Based from this configuration, you can create another service to monitor your /home partition if this one is separate from your root partition. The second service we want to configure is to monitor the machine load. The third one is to monitor the CPU usage, the memory usage, the swap usage, the uptime, the connected number user, the total process number, and the zombie process number. So take whatever you want. Example, don't put the zombie process number on your config file if you don't want to monitor it. After I save and close my config file, we're going to do a little validation of our nagios config file. I won't talk about this tool because I already do it in my first nagios video. On the result, we see everything is okay here. So we can restart the nagios service. And here, how to do that. On other computer, I will open a browser and we will go to our nagios web console. We enter the user and the password. And go to the host page from the left menu. Again, we see our two hosts. For example, if you had specified 10 others Ubuntu machine, that's where the 10.1 will appear. We can go to the service page to see service status. Some services are in pending status. That's because we have to give them time to do a first check. It's only been a few minutes since I restarted the nagios server. We see one service has just been updated live. It is the swap service. A way to force a checkup is to click on the service and in the right section click on reschedule the next check of this service. Click on commit. Click on done. Wait a few minutes. Normally it's 4 or 5 seconds. And then click on services again. Et voila! This service has been checked on my nagios server. So it's a little trick. If you don't want to wait the default interval, I believe it's 10 minutes by default. We see that two services are not working. CPU and uptime return the following error. Unable to read output. We're going to do a little check on the host we want to monitor. Probably some things are missing that I forgot to do. We're going to check the directory containing the plugins file. I will list the content because I want to know if uptime_check is there. It is not present. And it's the same things for the memory check plugin file and CPU check file plugin file. We're going to do a little research for Ubuntu package to try to find the one containing the check_CPU plugin. Oh, that's it. I forgot to install the monitoring-plugins-contrib package. Let's show some information about this package. So we must also install this package in addition to the one we installed earlier on the host we want to monitor. In case you don't want to monitor memory, CPU, or uptime, you don't have to install this package. There's a little bit more dependency package than the previous one. I'm going to write Y to accept. It also asks for a postfix server configuration. I'm going to do OK to choose the default configuration. Okay, the installation is done. I will list the plugins directory again. And the check uptime is there. Now it should work. I'm going back to the Nagios console. I will force a check for these 3 yellow services. Yay, everything is green now. Mission accomplished.
Yay!
Here is an example of when we have a warning service. That's it for this video. My next one will show you how to monitor a Windows machine. So it will be the same things like this one, but with a Windows machine. And then in another video, I will show you how to configure email alerts. To sum up, with the 2 videos I made, you are able to monitor your Linux machine and have a console to show you the state of them. You also have, from the Nagios console, the service status for your host. For example, you will see a warning if the CPU is highly used on one of your hosts, or if 6 users or more are currently connected by SSH, you will see a warning alert. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to post your comments. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see my future video. I wish you a good day. Bye bye.